recognizing all sentient beings as one's mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness. Then there's love, compassion, wholehearted resolve, and then finally, bodhicitta, or the spirit of enlightenment itself. Then the other instruction for that will enable us to see all sentient beings as very precious and attractive is the instruction of exchanging self and others, an instruction that has come from Shantideva. And essentially, this instruction consists of thinking from all possible venues about the faults of self-cherishing, thinking and reflecting on the benefits of cherishing others from every possible angle. Once we've come to understand these two, we will develop a wish to exchange ourselves with others. Yeah. So, of the two of these two instructions, it is said that those of greater intelligence, uh, should choose to train their minds in the according to the system of exchanges self and others, because it is said to be more profound and and it has much a wider scope.
Kandar chanju sang nyamle chewe la ya thona yoba chi yimba ina yunde menga dung lo jonga ta da shin nyamje ko lo jonga o tinde chi li ya ani beche ma che kameres o ti ma che na ani dandan di chi shi ba mi yong de ke lo ti shen chi shi ba mi yong de lo ti ke tu ta yo ma res ta ko tinde chi gi thona cheba la ani pengo pa lu du umarin chen chwa ani 야세 친구 시war라 준주 친구 어떻게 털이야 아니 소소 야네 양도 콤버체 리버체 아니 로존체 어딘데 최고야 또서 흉첨불이야 도선 로존 최고야 또서 시라 개친구도 왔어 뭐다 단다값 봐봐 야세 친구 시war라 준주기 시카시시 탐고 있나스 단데디 라한진진 생기 꽤 친구 지긴 봐 어디 산계기 공부 파르샤 세 딜이네야 아니 간다를 지 디기디 준투 매다바 두조 시 세버천 숨고도 왔어 다데 생기 동에다 양다 제와 마체나 상게 니투 민루지 코와 나양 대와메스 코알로 코베네갈라야 디기 푸소서지 용고 말레스 간다 도바다 남도다 에네 지 차단다 딘데기 토는 로데스니 지 용고 말레스 강원에 타네 신진진을 연된도 때 브라진진 껴도 때 도스 중바이나 아니 베티 지 칠로기 지 껴기 파체기 네베리 강가 에네 지 깽에 개꾸만 로토야 깽에 조들랑도야 어떤데지 용토야지레스 근데 근데도 코아나야 다음에 사야지 그때 들어봤다
If we are interested in cultivating and generating the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta, then we really have no choice but to learn and practice these two instructions for generating bodhicitta: the sevenfold cause and effect instruction and the instruction on exchanging self and others. Otherwise, there's no way we can develop from our own side the perception of all sentient beings as being very precious and attractive. There's no way for us to make all sentient beings matter to us from our own side without cultivating our mind using either of these two instructions. Therefore, it is very important for us to study and to familiarize ourselves with Nagarjuna's precious garland and Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. We should study and reflect on these on the instructions that are found in these two texts. So let me cite a couple of verses from Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds now, as an example. So Shantideva, in his engaging in Bodhisattva deeds, he said that if we don't practice bodhicitta, put aside achieving enlightenment, even while we are in cyclic existence, we can never be happy. So the verse goes like this: if I do not correctly exchange my happiness and the suffering of others, I shall not accomplish the state of Buddhahood, and even in cyclic existence, I shall have no happiness. If we do not exchange ourselves, if we do not exchange our happiness and the suffering of others, then what happens is that while we are still in cyclic existence, we will be plagued by all kinds of doubt, thoughts, suspicion, anger, attachment, and so forth, isn't it? However, if we were to practice bodhicitta, we will be able to transform those adverse conditions that we meet in cyclic existence into conditions for the practice of virtue, into conditions for achieving enlightenment, and so forth.
Jigden tana tsawa kanyo das. Jigdan dungi chingen yoykyo bas. Tikun dadu zimba lechung nas. Drechen teko dala jishi chas. Zambulingi nala yas. Semden le chunga noba mambuchi yungu yore. Semen le chunga noba mambuchi yungu yore. Semden le chunga noba tuzuni ngus koran re. Semen le chunga noba tuzuni gyune re. O tinde chigi kandar noba teki di yongaya di. Gyu mebali chunga omaris. Gyu chikchu yoris. Gyu de kararisina ran jinzingi o shende ketuse. Shende yawato. Tela tene ji kuno tinde chile tene lunga ke chajo mambu chile tene ti dribule ne nasaya tene yungu yore. Noba nasoya tene yungu yore. O tinde inza jikten tanga tsawa kanyo dansne semdeli chunga tsawa che yungu re semeli chunga jungen noba che yungu re. Jikten tanga tsawa kanyo da. Jikta dunges ngamra jikta. Ane dunge oda ji luleya ji ne nasaka dunge. Semya ki ma jik dunge oda tinde chi yungurwa jikta dunge chingi yoy kyurbas ta yong suzoba de tar tuba gaksa kaba tubu yorasna ran jinzi dili tubaras tikun dadu zimba le chungnas tingwane tanegi ta chi neba yong suzoba junga gotewa suresna chilor zugu zuya maris o susu rangyu liyo debeki and dakzi diris tandi ngone dre tandawa chiris dreche ta dre nani dreche moris dreche tego dala chishi chat ta ngone tane kopiya chi yobina bi gota chi reshasni o tusin sunguduwas ta ko sikde alenya lola sin chabe jelaya di dagas sungshasne mashapche dilya ribe taje kazangaranso tudugo chachego la sobrigo kashi shiwima o tuzete samda ngone dembare do wasamaji susu ngishenye bachise di chungsuna ta ngone tane ranjinji singindi ta kyechimbuji imba shenjinji singindi 내가 비디기야 되네 이거요. 터두게 되기야 되네 이거요. 아니 신의 라트 들려 묘변이. 도스 충분히나 당문에 자네기 던던디 제시밤에 용도 룹세디 다 신의 레지래 대마도 자주 쓰는 레라고 만도와
Shantideva, in his engagement in the Bodhisattva deeds, he also said that all the animate and inanimate harms that we experience, all comes from our self cherishing attitude. So if you look at verse 134 from chapter 8, if whatever harms, fear, and suffering in the world all arise from grasping the self, then of what use is that great goals to me? So we experience many kinds of harms. There are harms that come from other sentient beings, whilst there are harms that come from the environment. But whatever the case, these harms that we experience do not arise without a cause. The cause of the harms that we experience ultimately is the great goals of self-cherishing that lies deep in our hearts. Because of our self-cherishing attitude, because of our with the preoccupation with our own desires, our own happiness, we neglect others. We discard others. And then whatever actions of body and speech that we undertake while under the while motivated by our selfish attitude will then in the future give rise to all kinds of harms, both animate and inanimate. It will give rise to all kinds of sickness and diseases and so forth. So as such, all the harms, the fear and suffering in the world all arise from grasping at the self, which in this context here is read as the self, our self-cherishing attitude. Yeah. So Shantideva is saying that the main cause of all of our problems is not outside. We shouldn't be pointing to something outside. The main cause is this ghost of the self-cherishing, which lies deep in our hearts. So if we really need to expel a ghost, so to speak, it is this self-cherishing attitude of ours that we need to discard or get rid of. Yeah. So we should memorize this verse and think about it. But we should not just merely memorize the verse and just merely regurgitate the verse. But we have to analyze and see if it is really true that all of our problems come from a self-cherishing attitude. So yesterday, we talked a little bit about the way to analyze phenomena by using, for example, the four principles, isn't it? So yes, memorize this particular verse, but think about it. Think about it, yeah. So in order to gain conviction in this, we have to think about it. We have to see for ourselves that self-cherishing results in all kinds of problems, and we have to see and believe, really come to understand that cherishing others is profitable. Cherishing others has a host of benefits. Only then we will develop a real interest in in bodhicitta, and only then we will be able to start seeing sentient beings as attractive and so forth. So bodhicitta is not an easy thing. Yeah. Yes.
semdeni chung neba tigiti go several ji yobche da semeli chung pena ji jungwa sa chu me lung tindegi zabulung ya nuju guba na zo yungu yore eni semeli chung guba tu so eni ranjin ji da dewa kandre yore da samji tangwa ya ji chaldu was ko semeli chung ji inza jungen neba ji chung inza da jungen neba ti Kandar, you megawali chung dibuchi yimbate severwa, dibu dungen tante nyungu arwa. Tindu, you gawale dibuti nyungu marwa, dungende nyungu marwa. You megawale dibuti nyungu chirwa. You megawati ta shen nebe chigi 딘데기 류 롱제 녀콜 강야 롱아지가 네베 차와지 군론지 모든 데가 보내 미게 레지산 디디부지 임바데 세버레도와 딘데 네베 레싱게디 셴진지리 용야 메도와 다 란진지다 셴진지 생게디 즈바니데 가와 딱도로와 다 로사 란진지를 모두 로사 메도와 라니 치도 아니 셴기 류 롱저 게자 가사 롱저 녀코르 녀니도 두졸이야 다 때메기 아니 지 케도 세밤 야와 도암 아니 체투년네 네벨레 체바치로 때네 레지사 디 디부디 단다 인 도스체 지퉁 렐 때네 용거에 지 용거와 아니 야 랑랑 소소 겔 때네 용아지 용거와 도스체 sometimes dan rosati ranjins rania maton rosamindus gutawati oti 제제 엔지 처바지 투용하지 도와 남산 체면 잡으려면 남산 끼고 매배 있네요 처바지 투야지 도와 스머죠 든든히도
It is clear that we receive harms from other sentient beings, and it is quite it's quite straightforward to be able to see that how harms that we experience, the harms from other sentient beings that we experience can be traced back to self-cherishing. That is still quite we can understand that, but how does the harm that we experience from inanimate objects uh, arise from our self-cherishing attitude? So this is maybe not that straightforward. So we experience harms from the environment, harms from the elements of the earth, water, fire, and wind. Yeah? We do experience harms from the environment, isn't it? So the harms that we receive from the environment cannot arise from cannot arise from no causes and conditions. Obviously, they have to come from a cause, isn't it? And the cause cannot be virtue. The cause has to be a non-virtue because the result is harm, suffering that we experience, isn't it right? And as I mentioned earlier on, uh, karma has to be an action that is connected with a motivation, isn't it right? So in the past, due to uh, engaging in actions motivated by self-cherishing, through which then we neglected the welfare of others, we prioritize our happiness over others and so forth, and then the actions that this motivation gives rise to were probably non-virtuous, isn't it? Actions that harm the bodies of others, actions that harm the possessions of others. Yeah. So because of those actions, which are motivated by self-cherishing, we accumulated the karma to receive harms from sentient beings, from the environment. So we have the self-cherishing attitude, but it is possible to develop the thought of cherishing others. These two are opposites, aren't they? Self-cherishing attitude and the thought of cherishing others. These two are opposite, isn't it? So it can't be the case that virtue. It can't be the case that non-virtue can arise from cherishing others. So if that's the case, then non-virtue can only arise from our self-cherishing attitude, and motivated by this self-cherishing attitude, then we engage in all kinds of uh, non-virtue, and which will then give rise to suffering. Yeah. So depending on anyway, with regards to these non-virtues that we can accumulate, sometimes uh, together they can ripen together with the karma of other things. Yeah. And when that happens, then collectively we and many sentient beings undergo a similar experience, isn't it? So that experience is said to be a result of collective karma. But there are many cases in which the experience of the suffering is personal, isn't it?
goba chambu yimba kyawa chimal le goba chambu yimba rangden le tene goba chambu yimba shenden le tene goba chambu yimba kartu sanje ji komba la ji komba thoya le goba chambu yimba shenda par shane ji tuba sanje chomden de tu nyeber chebe chobaya di khone rugu yoba to zo junju na sebo sungu dwa dingi tishin shi gwa nyeje is o ta shenden ji tenye lo zo chene 다베 현재의 장주성이 냠랜디 링이 디신시고 예제이스 랑던 양다 두바야 링이 됐어 수수 던다지 두 타투지 두고기여나 베디 고바 용수 소지 두야디 장주성이 돌을 때네 엔 동반이 냠내 숨지 터네 산지 고마 두고도 마도지 동반이 냠내 주고지 터네 장주성 매바 산지 고마 두투야 민도와 디 랑든 타르치 뭐 로얄라야 장주 셈디 메다 랑든 양다 도야 딩이레스 지데 동에서 봐야 딩이레스 당만하다는 지데인 게초 미지조 주고게 좀 말해 든지 지조다 제가 용수 줘버려야 뭐네 단에기 학삼 기토네 다 지강에서야 지당 펜데 두야지 임바이나 다 현진진 로티 숙철 단제 엔 두고야지 아니 대만 중나 말아서 등사 큰 숨겨 써야지 용되게 하래 어디 비스 시대 써야지 깨져지 용거래 뭐네 시대지 용하지 뭐네 고유 숨겨 써야지 신동 지고 주고 깨져 말해 신동 야답 깨져 말해 소자기 지 르다기 처음에 두서 참말로 알기 디둘이야 성단제 강다르 되게디 천에 중나 말한 소라 지댕기 지조나 미지조라 디기 용투야지 뒤쪽 천에 야고 맞으나 미지조 천에냐 내게 전부 누구 여버지 뒤쪽 지다 빈주 지리야 대베런 신이 맞대 내베 터네 어다 신의 양다 두바야 딩이 도스 지게 동에서 봐야 딩이 도스 치지 근데 숨고도 와 꼭만에 리바 터네 하코야 여버지 기선 될 때네 대대 다기 따도 닝이 차스 규세 텔레테네 당에 문에 타네기 지 최기 냠네 망고 요래 디나네 다 티바 쳔베 냠네 그 짜지라 장주그선 다베 현재베 장주그선디 당문에 타네 개와 까마치 제베 있네야 디 캡텐 시사데 딘데 숨비 삼바지 대대 다기 따도 닝이 차스 디 치도서 누가 친구도가 도바상게 좀 내데 녀버체야 디가레스 저번 넘버 라면 라프니 얘기 여다메다 따주레스 다 장주고 성공 다베 현재로 로고 도스체다 디신시고 녀베 탑 디가라레스 디디 준주고 신신다 진나래 요래 현여메 년교제 한바 방면 제는 선전 구셔 마도베 현강식 내는 교스 당원에 타네 파선 베드 제지베트네 학생들이 유교도 만들고 학생 잭집에 돈에 선전시에 다 돈바시 본데니 도바 상게 좀 된데 또 녀부지 소고고요나 딱 녀부서야 가르래 선전시에 고쳐야 되가라스 디스제제 돈도 좀 jungo도 준주나
So in order to develop a bodhicitta. So that's the verse that we cited, verse 127 from chapter 6. He delights the Tathagatas and perfectly accomplishes my own purpose as well. He dispels the suffering of the world, therefore I should always practice it. Because of these reasons, we should focus on cultivating bodhicitta. But first, we have to think deeply, extensively about the faults of self-cherishing attitude. We have to think deeply and extensively on the benefits of cherishing others. Only then will we be able to be able to see other sentient beings as being very important to us. Yeah, only then we'll be able to, from our own side, to make sentient beings matter to us. Is we regard them as something very precious. So bodhicitta is that which fulfills our own needs. Yeah, of this life. Bodhicitta is that which will enable us to fulfill wishes and needs of the future lives. Bodhicitta is that which will enable us to accomplish our own welfare. Bodhicitta is that which will enable us to fulfill the welfare of or accomplish the goals of sentient beings. Bodhicitta is that which enables us to achieve full enlightenment. Bodhicitta is the best offering to please all the Buddhists. If even if we have realized the emptiness of inherent existence, but if this wisdom is not conjoined with spirit or the mind of enlightenment of bodhicitta, then there is no way for us to achieve omniscience, the state of full enlightenment. Right? So from this, we can see that even to accomplish our own purposes, yeah, and the highest goal for ourselves is achieving omniscience. Even to achieve our own purposes, we need to cultivate bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is that which dispels the suffering of the world, as we saw in the verse by Shantideva is so when we talk about dispelling the miseries or the suffering of the world, we are not talking just about the suffering of the human being, but bodhicitta is that which enables the dispelling the suffering of even the animals that inhabit this world. So, uh, many a times there are people who talk about, achieving world peace, environmental protection, and so forth. So, environmental protection is not just about planting trees. The point here is that because of the interdependent nature of the world, if we take care of the environment through actions such as planting trees and so forth, because of the interdependent nature of the environment and the happiness of the human race, therefore, if we take care of others, take care of the natural environment and the wildlife that live then we, the human race, will also stand to benefit from it. And likewise, with the verse, you saw how cherishing others is the best offering to the Buddha. Because the Buddha is someone who is always and only interested in well-being, in the happiness of uh, isn't it? So if from our own side, if we were to cherish sentient beings, that would be the best offering to all the Buddhists because when we cherish sentient beings, the Buddhas will really be pleased with us.
어, 가담 구매 승구요래. 가담 구매 승주나라. 삼바 현대 삼매. 랑데 샬 두바이스. 삼주디 현대 삼바르데. 엔 서서 돈다. 뿌타고 쉬우지 용거 알았어. 내가 그 다도 되는 강가 두야지 용거 알았어. 뒤에 준주나라 용거도 와. 드베 치다 점저베 두지 초장디. 드베 내럽 시체베 맨지 초장디. 드베 우와 설치베 미세때야 디노스. 다티 타두 계제지 수야지도 용그래 레데 알동 타두 육샤 세딜 차샤나야 야이신노비 숨주살이야 이네 딩두기 멤베기 엔 치리부터지 류비 초된 치리부터지 라니 승아가 사기 디축 첨부 여베이나 텔레테네 닝자 가야기 내나자 아니 본다 마 녀베 qab이야 니 먹고봐 니면 사대 거야 딘데기 강에 먹고 용대야 디 마임 바체니 뭐네 타네기 나가 사기 지 랑든 조 지벨로티 지 슈충르다 지메기 삼노지기 로 자친구지 도시여베이나 텔레테네 류비기 짠로당 예 레벨 연个자다 예 짠로당 지기 토네 지 수수 류비 엔 초대 지 류비 누도 송 엔 공배도 줘야 딘데스 지지 개발이 여바디 대바지고 깨자마이 딩두 멤버 체리 토네 뭐랭 토네 레시 개기 여대봐 딘드 드레 내럽 시체베 맹이 초자 디노세 뭐네 대단 딱딱 돼야 봐 다 내나서 매바이나 텔레테네 뭐네 루부테 탄다 세르르 줘야지 용용 바래 근데 인자 왜 치다 안 점세베 드지 초자 디노세 뭐네 단에 학사 남다지 도네 정말 김제 이날에 어다지 심제 둔두춘줄이야 지 자완 학사 남다지 여베이나 텔라 시바시기 아니 소소리야 강에 태백갑이야 로바칭이지야 용대야 근데 인도 저 우아셀 제베 미세테리안 디노스 두속한 다가 대바지고부터는 깨지시기 매봐 유세토네 래야데 봐 근데 인도 다 진지 생인데 원에 다는 예배 초 공부이 봐 신진지 생인데 책들을 찾아봐 있는 내 매봐 책rinwa 롱주 쳐 용하라 땡땡이 대바친 보여다 봐 어다 깨와 치마를 찾아봐 있나 지문에 다네 뭔도 하다미 공부톱 생긴데 셴을 내가 시들 잡아래 너베 수dim직 숨을 거네 뭔도 톱고 요래 근데 이 태양 뭔도 고마 생긴데 셰 잡아 좀 말래 톱고 요봐 사람기 연대 생긴데 지만네 퍼진주 냠네 두영 먹고 런주민지 퍼진주 신규민지 두영 먹고 시 도저 용수 줘봐 다 삼대다 셰럽디 그 카도 잡아이면 미시 대마도 용수 줘봐甚至 셴을 때네 지바다 수tum수 서범공 도스체네 두영 먹고 신데 많이 진래 도스체는 로데 엔 라우드 지 단데 야세 창주 선배 삼대 야세 창주 선배 셰럽 냠네 세인도 참바다 닌제 자월 교비 찬주스 실어샤는 공부도 현대 이제 디나는 예버지가 잡아 예대버지기 도스체네 타도 상계기 공방 톱제기 남기를 받게 돼야 실제버지면 연될 때는 두고야지 도스레데도 와스 디인도 지 내가부터 타도 용서 잡았더라 지 제신 방배 용도 줘버거니 이제 답에 현재에 찬주고 셈 사연디 애니까 문에 다네기 냠내기 싸워지리야 투여바지 그냥 디지 킹게 열어라 디토를 jon단해야 돼 개정식으로 봤어.
So the former Kadamba masters have this saying, when you think about the happiness of sentient beings, other sentient beings, your own wishes will get accomplished by the way. So when we talk about our own wishes being accomplished by the way, we are talking about both our temporal goals and ultimate goals. Yeah. So in Shantideva, in his teaching in the Bodhisattva Gita, he said, "This is the supreme medicine that quells the disease of migrating beings." So this is true. Even modern medical science accepts this year. So His Holiness in his teachings often cites research done by the scientists here. isn't it? In their research, the scientists have found that those who tend to be more self-centered, uh, those people who often uh, this who often use the word I, mine, and me in their daily lives, tend to be more prone to heart disease. So people who are more self-centered will probably also find it difficult to fall asleep easily. They might even have to rely on sleeping medicine, right? And in their research, the scientists have discovered that people who have good heart tend to have better health, and having a kind heart helps to strengthen the immune fitness. So, so as such, the good heart and bodhicitta is the supreme medicine that quells the disease of migrating. And if you don't, and if your life is not plagued by sickness, then you are very likely to have live a longer life. So as such, Gandhideva said, this is also the supreme ambrosia, the supreme nectar that overcomes the lord of death of migrating being. And this is also the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates the poverty of migrating beings. So good-hearted people, kind people are more likely to receive help from others, right? So, these examples that I've just cited are just plain obvious. It's nothing to do with faith. If we think about it, it's quite easy to understand. Yeah, all right, okay. So again, we have to uh, think about the faults of the self-centered attitude, the faults of cherishing ourselves, and we have to see for ourselves the profit or the benefit of cherishing others. So having a good heart will bring about happiness even in this life. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier on, good heart can result in a longer life and result in a life with more or lesser sickness. Uh, Being good-hearted will bring you more friends and helpers. And we have been talking about achieving a good rebirth in high status. So achieving a high status has to come from the practice of ethical discipline, of restraining ourselves from non-virtue, from harming others. So in order to practice ethical discipline, sentient beings must exist in the first place. Our practice of ethical discipline is done in relation to other sentient beings. So as such, even the achievement of high status uh, is related, is connected to uh, other sentient beings. Then, and if we talk about the Buddhist path, and in particular the path to full enlightenment, in order to achieve full enlightenment, we have to practice the six perfections, which fulfills our aims, and we have to practice the four ways of gathering sentient beings into our fold, which is a method for benefiting sentient beings, isn't it? Right? So all of these practices uh, uh, have to be done in relation to sentient beings. These practices can only be done because other sentient beings exist. These practices have to be done in dependence on other sentient beings. Perhaps with the exception of meditative stabilization and wisdom, maybe we don't really see directly how sentient beings kind of involved in those two practices. But but with respect to the practice of the perfection of generosity, ethical discipline, and patience, those practices are obviously directly related to other sentient beings, isn't it? Right? So if we put all of these points together and we think about it, then we'll come to see, and come to see and understand uh, how of all the practices that can be done, bodhicitta is the main practice, and that is what we should pay attention to.
강근나베 동행 모였으냐 제시방배 이원도 두야 두zu 규생 두zu 거차비 제라 다 디치도 조장 토벌 되게 로 사지 고기도 산계기 콤판티 톱투그르베 톱 고그르베스 어디 가장에 룸레시오나 신체네 마셰네 다 닝제 바이나레 참배 바이나레 락신염제로 두zu 로네 이나레 디진도 당 내가 짠도 semjen shandagi ji ten yonsu zobar chebala sanje ji kombaji to goya ji tende resha sambaji and shine ngone gyutsen tone and ngeyochi da has lende zamayimba dollar penge sanje rubar show sayati da has siji lende chin gyorsha ji mayimba dro tayebe do semje tamjela 내가 다 터도 되 용수 줘봐 누비하게 체도 나하게 상계기 공부 톱을 쇼 세티 때문에는 톱나마도 탑 균을 민두스 맞지 지딱 대기 규천투서 제시방에 이용기 로드바 투지 강근나베 동행 모여서 투지 딱 숙작이 잡고야지 자기 여지 규천돈 나는 톱 투를 베스 이제 드와지 지수나 돈이 거다 잡아 더블레네스 뭐다 텔레야 동반이 신경이 남샤티 마신나 산제기 콤바 토벌 쇼스 제바대야 몸바점 레와점 레마도 지기 코란 톱 투구 예백이 딩저들해야 돼 가보시라 이 말에 딩데 인도 다닌 주고들라 단다 개와 풍수 초벌 제 세야되기 애니 자세 전주 선배 지 냠랭이 좀 받기 지 땜발 차샤네 다만 디 조들 조장 톱 거버디 아니 랑스는 용순도스 수수규리 셈 두버드 가르래 셈 마두버드 가르래 마두버드 차단으로 어떻게 되래 차단으로 어떻게 자와 되게 공두시반지 티무 딘제레 다 자와 딜투기요래 된다에 티무 딘지 생겐디 빠야지 요르다 매버서야지 요르다 요마르서야지 다 저 전부 차베인 거래 티무 딘지 생겐디 빵투야 매버지기 베드 나란즈 솔라나 신지 솔라트다 나고니디 그런 모예메 지체네 솔라 가제 마 다리나야 나고도 줘야 매되는지 솔라 줘보다 나고 줘보다 그런 냠도 줘보지 못도 지기 소 나고도 줘는 솔라 돼지 민도와 추녀고 가제지 예배 있나야 추디 가제 투두기 짱마 세배 있나 녀고도 당로야지 도와 추를 신을 녀고 마시고 지래도와 베티나 신지기 나란스 귤이야 티무 딘지 생긴디 생그랑신의 슈 요래 요 말했어야지 다 저같이 뭐지 다 콜루와 임바 콜레 잡텐 세마 매바 콜로 친지로 임바 그 진당 무슨 가베 양답에 로스인지 동반이기 로스인지 이해돼봐 동반이기 로스인지 잡텐 리벨람 때는 매바 임베잖아 다다데 만주기를 마게베 왕기 코코카보지다 셰카보지 유리게 가보지래데 코 곰리제네 남식이제 유리게네 데 곰바 때만이나 곰바 패베 토네 잡데 매데네 친줄로고 로테 라르미게 추제인체 봐야 여대봐 딘데지인데 코알레 생인데야 타려야 여대봐 탐지 캠베 곰바 생인데야 토투야지 다 여대봐 지금 가르스나 녀몽베 디바다 대샤베 바자도 제봐 아니 봐야지 여대봐 내가 증년 어디인데 상계 톱누스 또야 어디 딘데지가 로지가 터네 돈이 코르단 제바 또베 로디기 저 제발을 때네 아니 다기 저 산지 컴바 토버 쇼 사야디 세메 참베 네번예베 돈 아니 로제야지 유데버지 도스 제제 다디 랑기 셈니 용수 둘세 딱 먼저 참여 롭세 랑기 셈니 용수 둘세 셈니 용수 도와데 다 양답에 셰베 셰럽 디 떡기 친구로 너무 받게 말루바 문주와 빵하다 사벤 빵배 차네 다저부터 그래 바자도 제가 빵배 차네 아니 라면 저거 산지지 공부 더 그래 심두 타르도도 더 윤도 라면 저거 산지지 공부 더 유하지래 다티 can't get more of the was
So coming back to the mind of enlightenment bodhicitta, which is the main mind that is accompanied by, or that's concomitant with two aspirations. So to recognizing suffering and to seeing all sentient beings as precious, then we develop the aspiration to fulfill the welfare of sentient beings. And once we have this aspiration to fulfill the welfare of sentient beings, then naturally the next step would be to develop the intention to be omniscient, to become a Buddha, in order to accomplish that aspiration. So as I mentioned, yesterday, citing what Gyao Sabji wrote in one of his works, he said that by training our minds, starting from recognizing all sentient beings as our mothers, up to love or compassion, we see for ourselves why we need to achieve enlightenment. Yeah, so we need to see the reason why we need to achieve enlightenment. Usually when we recite the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, the prayer ends with Drola Penche Sangye Drupa Sho. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So this is, when we recite prayers like this, the point is not really reciting the prayer, and it is not about, it's not about, it's not an imitation. Just because somebody else is reciting and then we are kind of reciting, or somebody said to do so, then we are doing it. So rather, we should see the reason. We should see the reasons why there's a need for us to become a Buddha. Yeah, and there are reasons, isn't it? And I have already mentioned some of these earlier on. So seeing the need to achieve enlightenment is one thing. But is it really possible to achieve enlightenment? Yeah, that it is a different ball game. It's an entirely different question. Is so whether we see the possibility to achieve enlightenment or not is dependent on whether we develop the view of emptiness or not. Yeah. So if we have not developed the view of emptiness, then the aspiration to achieve enlightenment is just a mere wish, just a mere hope. But deep down, we won't have the confidence and the conviction that we ourselves can become Buddha. Yeah. So whether we can become a Buddha or not, that is a huge, big question, isn't it? Right. So going back to the verse, which is the subject of the teaching today, I've mentioned earlier on that the second line, engage in perfect virtue, that is you can relate that to the practice of the method. Yeah. of the Mahayana path. Then we come to the third line, subdue your mind thoroughly. Yeah. So you can relate this line to the need for achieving enlightenment. Subduing our minds thoroughly, we can interpret or read that as uh, uh, the need or the importance of achieving enlightenment in order for us to fulfill the aspiration of working for the welfare of others. Although we need to subdue our minds thoroughly, but is it really possible for us to subdue our minds thoroughly? So, we accumulate karma, and therefore we circle in cyclic existence. But the accumulation of karma is propelled by our afflictions, such as our anger and attachment. And the teachings tell us that the root of all afflictions is our self-grasping ignorance. So, then the big question is, can this self-grasping ignorance be abandoned or not? Because if it can't be abandoned, then there's no way we can stop afflictions, there's no way we can stop the accumulation of karma, and therefore there's no way to stop cycling existence. Yeah. Okay. So this separate abandoning the afflictions, is it like trying to separate the the blackness, the color black from charcoal, or is it more like purifying the water of contaminants? If our afflictions, if the afflictions are in the nature of our mind, then there is no way for us to abandon the afflictions. Yeah, yeah, it will be the same as trying to remove blackness, the color, the black from charcoal. You can't have one without the other, isn't it? So it is said that our afflictions are adventitious, although they exist, but they have not entered they are not in the nature of our mind. So yeah, our afflictions are adventitious. They are erroneous conceptions. They do not have any valid support, and a powerful antidote in the form of the wisdom realizing selflessness exists. So because of these four different reasons, we say that it is possible to abandon the afflictions. Right? Of course, it might sound uh, it is difficult. Yeah, I mean, it looks difficult, and it is difficult because we don't have we don't have a good idea of what selflessness is, and we don't have a good understanding, we don't have a realization of it, and we are not our minds have not been familiarized with the meaning of selflessness. But if with proper familiarization, it is possible to it is possible to overcome afflictions. It is possible to abandon our self-grasping ignorance. Yeah, it is possible to reach a point in time whereby the self-grasping ignorance will never ever manifest, arise again. So only when we think about these different issues and come to a conclusive decisive understanding of these issues, only then will we develop a decisive understanding, a conviction that liberation from cyclic existence is possible, achieving omniscience is possible. Yeah. At the end of the day, it is possible because the two obscurations, the afflictive obscurations and knowledge obscurations, can be abandoned. And if they can be abandoned, then enlightenment can be achieved. We can achieve enlightenment. Yeah? So, as such, uh, the third line of the verse, subdue your mind thoroughly, uh, we can relate that to the practice of wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. Right? So with the wisdom realizing emptiness, we can abandon manifest afflictions together with the seeds of the afflictions. And if this wisdom realizing emptiness is accompanied, is joined with the practice of method, then we can also abandon the knowledge of creation. And in doing so, we achieve full enlightenment of omniscience.
לא רק שהיא מחסלת את המופעים הגלויים, מה שנקרא באנגלית manifest, לא רק שהיא מפסיקה אותם, אלא היא גם מחסלת את הזרעים שלהם, ואם נחסל את המופעים הגלויים של הבערות וגם את הזרעים של הבערות, אז נוכל להגשים את מצב הארהט, מצב השחרור. ומעבר לזה גם נכחיד את הזרעים, את הרישומים, את האימפרינטס של הבערות, אז בתלות בזה נוכל להפוך להיות בודה. זה משהו שמאוד חשוב להבין.
Hello, Rinpoche. Yes, we are now moving on to the Q&A part, questions to Rinpoche. We're going to do it in a round. First, I will ask the first question, then May will ask the second question, and then Misha will ask the next question. Okay, so the first question is the following. Lama Tsongkhapa combined the two methods for generating bodhicitta into one practice. The two methods are the 7 stages of 6 causes and 1 result, and equalizing and exchanging self and others. Can Rinpoche please explain this practice, the combination of the 2 methods? Thanks.
Singapore gegu di la di church tanson di la gyume kasa gyonja menga dun ta dakshin nyamde tabdi ni nyamdo chi chewaina je sunde chewaina di la Rinpoche gi menga chi sumbaresa di nyamdo sunde chi nyamaina di Rinpoche deshekyun nanto wainas
o dilata dijitwa Tomar Mashe Chadanka Chowa Tanyum Chiknelia. That Tanyum di Samalo Jinchung Chigi and G that Dai Cholia, Damba Mahimba, Yangi Chola, Chava Mahimba, Chadanka, Santa Tamalolia, G Nyambachi Chungsavi Jela, Tata Tamje, and Musmam Machenyumba. Or Tindechigi, the Gusensan Betone, Marche, the Netinde, the Netiso, the Neon, the Chamba, Ninja Potiale. They let's have a Jelia, any ranching go to Manesam. Changing Yonde go to Manesam. That name ranching the changing going yet that sheds have a jella that changing Yonde to the ranjinzi gyöndi jetu tamatu ene tinde ina ta jetu ya den tolia ene nyabatane ta tuzo lama chebe signal do ranyi jinzu goba kunjuko manan jinzi yende kun dishi dashin jebe nenjola nyamne nyimbo cheba chingelos tat di gyapshi gyapji yadro ina ranyi chebe zembe chonne mende dungan chebe yurtone lenendela kontu sonjede tangzi donjen joba chingelosne ranjinzi gyön gotmanesa manam chisun delon gobelo taye yende jume gortone roa de da dage dalanya sole chebe zemba chingelosne chenjinzi yende gotmanesa ta dashin jebe nyamne ngoede tande ranyi jinzu goba kunjugo manam jinzu yende kunjishi dishi dashin jebe nenjola nyamne nyimbo chebe chingelos pechi daga yinsons o dos cheje ene jinjingi gi gyön shebe bone ene dashin nyamjegi lote changje o dos chebe ina ene gyunde menga dungi rinbata dashin nyamjegi rinbe menga nyibote chigdu sebe gone and Tandedi, Jeshimbe, you want to do ya, what tea mata. That near the desk, Salvir Chimuda, or Mashe, Chinjenche, Chinsoche, and that Tine, dashing him to Gonta that Chili Sare. Somebody needs to take the window cover. What was it?
So in Rinpoche's tradition, there's a way of
רימפוצ'ה נשאל על תרגול שמשלב את
the two instructions of the sevenfold course of reflect and that of exchanging self and others. So the way to do this is like this, yeah. So at the beginning, one meditates on equanimity in order to equalize from our own perspective, all sentient beings, yeah. So that we don't fall under the influence of manifest attachment for those who we consider to be on our side, those who matter to us. We don't get influenced by manifest kind of hatred or dislike for those for our enemies, people who we consider to not be on our side and so forth. So with that as a basis, then we bring our attention onto all these sentient beings that we have that are equal in our minds, and bring to mind how all of them have been my mother numberless times, and then on the basis, then we bring to mind how when they were our mothers, how they were kind to us in many ways. And after remembering the kindness of these mothers and beings, then we develop a wish to repay their kindness, isn't it? Then, the next thing we do is to reflect on the faults of the self-cherishing. And if you are familiar with the Guru Puja practice, in the Guru Puja practice, there is a verse which says, this chronic disease of cherishing myself is the cause giving rise to my unsought suffering. Perceiving this, I seek your blessings to blame, grudge, and destroy this monstrous demon of selfishness. So we have to think about the faults of self-cherishing from many different angles. Then we have to think about the benefits of cherishing others from many different angles. And in regards to this practice, the Guru Puja says, the mind that cherishes mothers and places them in bliss is the gateway to infinite quality. Seeing this, I seek your blessings to cherish these beings more than my lives, even should they arise as my enemies. So after having reflected on the faults of self-cherishing and the benefits of cherishing others, then we have to think about we have to think about the possibility of exchanging ourselves with others. So is it really possible now? So there are some of these issues to be sorted out, isn't it? Then only then will we develop a wish to actually exchange ourselves with others. Only then we will develop this wish to do so. Yeah. And this practice of exchanging ourselves with others is expressed in Guru Puja as this, yeah. Cherishing myself is the doorway to all laws, or cherishing my mothers is the foundation of all qualities. Hence, I seek your blessing to make my heart practice the yoga of exchanging myself for others. And based on this generating this attitude or this mind of exchanging ourselves with others, prioritizing the happiness and suffering of others over ours, then it is said that this will result in love and followed by compassion and so forth. So this is how we combine the two instructions for developing the
I'd like to invite May to ask the next question. Thank you, May.
Good afternoon, Rinpoche. This is a question from Sophia Wang. She asked, how do we apply bodhicitta and wisdom of emptiness together in daily life? Could you give us an example, please? Thank you.
Rinpoche, chanchungi semtan, toni tawadi, ngato mitse rereliang, ngato mitse detandila, kande chi jago gres, sanlo kande chi tango gres.
Oh. Tati shoge ya lama thadu ene ji tongba ni gi nyamle chanju sing nyamle o tinde ji ti sing ji george o betwen ro chashana sangge choda choji chonala chanju bardo dani kyapsuche dagi ji soji be chonum ji dola benje sangge ro sho singdi ta sing ti tes le la ji re ko susulungbe ke thonen den chogruas ko nyonyo chiche ta ti kaptelia and sangye da chö da gindul japsu du is ta nge japsu du is o ti kaptelia sangye ti and lamden anye ngone jamye ti chö and mi beta sa gindul ta chö ti ngone kan de skya gu yore mus jamye ti chö kan de se je de ya ji so so thona dos che Di kaptelia mus kapset kandesresna ranjul yebe en ji chadanglo maribal soba kowe zawa dangzi dige di chamalo yang da ba thone nilu thomar sartto dene ji yang komdi che o dos chen cholam jolam nilu musund to be thonglam o dos chen en chö konjo ranjuli kesaji chayaji rede duas o tujune judi raji trebe thone ene kyapsunraji chumboina jamrote tendeji tam ngonde gi tabada devi jamroji chagiyo ta theya sosu chigo tartu chi kejamaima sosu chigo ji koal thotu su kejamaima dagi jinso gibe chonamji rola pencher sanjen ruber shosebe 다 뭐냐면 내 상기지 고마 톱 투사래 톱 누사래 해야지 다기 근데 최고건조도 잡무이 뭐 뒤도 삼다나야 라트야지 누라 근데 다기 다니 접수쳤어야 다기 진소스 뒤경고 신으로 투모모인데 같이 있는 것도 왔어 다 써야지 망아 써야지 류다 셈다 나디 다기 롱제자나시 꼬여자나시 배주 땅선나시 나한테 와 유바부터 어떤데 지금 알아서 롱 랑등한기 시작돼 들리지 레드도 왔어 류드 파샤 마드 파샤 셈드 파샤네 마세지 드네 양조제네 로스지 니아 메타 타저레도 왔어 다 로스야메 다 류다 마다 하버셈 들려야 기징나지 차두두두 파르체네 나생에디 차시 체네 두스 기징나지 차체네 제베이나 니레스네 조조네 니에토야 메딩이지 다 딘데인도 말링에와 땡두와 어딘데지 강래 때문에 랑왕하게 나생에지 말한절로 롱난긴난기 책이 요래 하든 남라 계획급 얘네 하장가 절쳐고 충을급 하장가 남라 청부 충을급 하장가 시단 청부 계획급 딘데기 소와지 무슨 용이요래 링에와지 말링에와지 대다디 나신 셴바다도 누가 민도 풍부했네 네 셈게 셈네 다 도스제다 나데 안에 디날 쟤네데 쳐래 다 루섬 관계 때문에 쟤네 니야메 누가 삼바지 다 니야메도 다는 나 매바르베 세이 나 매바 말스 나디 만드로 만두 나들이 기부도 나들이 기부면도 나들이 도도도 나들이 도도면도 쓴 근데 지금 타니기 남샤 간가 펜은 제대지 무슨 용에 카타기 열었어 다 팀 마지 연에 여된도스 유주티 양매나 시칸을 야 떠봐 매봐 요거야 지금 땡두와지 라왕와지 요거야래 Tene tsene nye mindus. Ta yusu nye lene mandes ta kararesna tene shazo. Ene mingwangi yezom. Ta tikanamato ta drosa mindu sambe tone. Ene tawe kolya jebache. Dani kyasuche. Dagi jiso shide dadelya jebache. Ene dotsningi yabe kaba sumbanashi chital kyugi dagi dushigi sheba tishi kunla lejar chasane. Ane o ngasingindi ta tindechigi yöne 다든 자니 녀지 매대바 야 자니네 매대바 매윤바 페네기 남샤가가 여대바 대인도 타니는 매 마rum바 어딘데지 난시 다 통소부들 최도서 간가야 대다 지바래도 와서메도네 아니 다지기 타니다 타와 가자 니메 세지도와 어디 다지기 타니다 타와 근데지 삼무지 쇼게미 카체오 칼 삼다나 dos tanya dos chanju san ta sam tanya do jamro khoya do ene tongmani ki tawa sam khoya dos ta nire shindu ene ta shoge jigo sha sam 들지 단제 ene tene yuksha ke ja mare nire gi ene ji shokse sawa ne chembe rundu jo sung chawa kanda kanga kalaya ene tawe kolya samya ya ta ya de chi jizumela re sum na shire ngani renga 사신 공 나renga 녀신 공 소문에 녀신을 깔려 삼다 사신을 깔려 삼다 사신을 깔고는 사제 총고도 되게 담바에 녀세 어서도 되게 담바에 소문에 뭐 된대지래 누긴 서리서리 관계 깔려 있네 아니 로소자 셰 가르치 동바이네 만주 칸에데 로라 펜지 상견 루버쇼 러그요래 선제 탐제도 상제 고바토버쇼 러그요래 라고요데 선제 탐제고 타른다르지 쳐제 수수 티르 예배기 통과 캠제기 처음에 예행 소자 등록 처음에 되게 돼 그거 제가 균에 매대봐 때문에 어떤데 지금이 안 되더니 만주 sem 검사디 타른 뭐 시부지 선제 탐제생이지 야 현다지리야 코르데버서 다 도서 간다 배 주변난 게 주체를 되도와 뭐다 틴타 대다르도 마서 봐 뭐네 선제 탐제 나기 대회 런둥이를 써야지 근데 지인바이는 수수 티를 여대베 선제 되게디 다 내가 랭이지 이나야 수수 레로요래 다 랍던둥이지 이나야 수수 진로다 되게요 다 되네 슝샤브지 이나야 슝샤브 코라나 디 이에를 봐 레제바요 멤버지 있는 디 네바다 메로요 뭐다 두두 창마 땅문에다네 네 대회 런둥이를 써야지다 대지도 나도 저 산지 공부탑을 저어 삼야기 어떤지 인다 삼야지다 대점도 마서 예를 예배 무슨 천재지 통과했네요 디토리 양양 공리다야 도스 주나 미기 센데 따나야스 대단함나 때문에다 산지니도 유로시 다시 참배 주기 따스네 어디 조조나야 심지어 등로로지 통과했네요 아니 어떤 디즈가 딘테 디즈치도 에네 다지 네 chanjuk sing nyamlenda tuzu ka ngesa dizu chedu inda samba ting tone ene chambe tsuki ta go gres o tende sungdo o ko dundu chu su kanganal yonda yaji ene konda nyewe kabliya ya ta tiring he samno thana shoge tangbateta nime kon to su khawateta yamges chinduwe mone chungbaji chungduwe o mone chungbo mambo chungduna ta tabi yasha 다 산이나니 양인데 지기 토네 미미제 던던데 제 삼바지 미제 부다지 게 삼바지 쇼게 삼 드리스탄 바레데 레가 장게 망고 시우지 차데 두나 당에 섬기 마rum바 뭐 콤베 바자니 배워니 딘데 망고 지기 랑을 쇼르제 딘데 제샤도 산이는데 미제 삼베 문제를 요새 진짜 미제 동스 도스 차베이나 니바 사시다가 대양 니바 충돌해야지 어떤데 아니 치말이야 이제 딘데기 장주성도 동반이기 냠내려야 공기 숙체를 줘야 누독체를 줘야 딘데 인사를 상것도
Okay.
So when we wake up in the morning, right away, we can think about bodhicitta and emptiness. And we can do so by reciting various verses that we can choose. But since many, many of us are familiar with the verse for refuge and bodhicitta. We can recite the verse and base our reflections and our contemplations on it. Yeah. So it is quite a straightforward verse. It's right. So the verse starts with, "I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha." So the first thing to bring to mind is refuge. We go for refuge to the Buddha, who is like a person who shows us the path. We go for refuge to the Dharma, which is the actual refuge. And we go for refuge to the Sangha, for they are examples for us. So, having said that the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge, so first we have to understand what is this Dharma jewel and how does the Dharma jewel protect us from suffering. Since it is said that the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge, so we have to pay attention to this. We have to understand what exactly is the Dharma jewel and how it protects us, isn't it, right? So, in brief, we have many afflictions in our mental condition, but primarily we have anger, attachment, and ignorance, isn't it, right? So these afflictions can be removed when we understand, see the ultimate nature of reality, when we see the ultimate nature of all that exists. So first we have to generate, if we have not yet generated such an understanding, we have to generate a fresh, new, this understanding of the ultimate nature of phenomena. But that is not sufficient. Once it is generated, we have to familiarize ourselves with this view over and over again. And there will come a time when we will directly perceive the ultimate nature of reality. So this direct perception of reality, simply speaking, constitutes the Dharma jewel. So, understanding this, what I've just said will help in developing a faith of aspiration, an aspiration to achieve the Dharma for ourselves. But we are aiming to actualize the Dharma jewel not just for the sake of freeing ourselves from cyclic existence. We have to think about benefiting other sentient beings. As such, we have the remaining lines of the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Through the merit from practicing generosity and the other perfections, may I become Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So, when you recite and reflect on these two lines from this prayer, then you can bring into your reflection the things that we have discussed yesterday and today. And in particular, why we need to become a Buddha and how it is actually possible for us to become a Buddha. So there are many things to think about, isn't it? And if you notice in this refuge and bodhicitta prayer, the word I comes up 2 times. And according to very uh, peculiar, special explanation of His Holiness said that, when the word I comes up in this prayer, you can think about the nature of this I or person. So for us who have not realized this, so how does the I appear to us? How do we conceive of the I? Many a times we have this feeling this idea, this deep-seated belief that there is this me or I that is the owner or controller of my body and mind, isn't it? Right? Isn't it? But the funny thing here is that if you look for this I that is supposedly the owner or controller of body and mind, if you look for such an I outside of your body and mind, you will not be able to point to something that is this I. So if the I exists in the way it appears to us as something very solid and independent, so if it really exists in the way it appears to us, and if it cannot be found outside of the body and mind, and then if it exists in the way it appears to us, then it must exist somewhere inside our body or mind. It is either a part of our body or mind, or it is the body or mind. So it is clear when we think about it. It is quite easy to understand how the I, how the body is not the I. But what about the mind? So the mind essentially is that which is designated upon a continuum of moments of cognition, isn't it? Right. And whenever we talk about a continuum or a moment of cognitions, then we have to talk about the past, present, and future, isn't it? So obviously, the I cannot be the mind which existed in the past, because the past has ceased to exist. But the mind cannot be a future moment of cognition, because it gets to arise. And if there's no past and present, then how do you posit if there's no past and future, how do you posit a presentness? Even if you were to search for the I in the present moment, when we talk about moments, we can break down time into very smaller units of time and so forth. So we will look for this real I. We will not be able to point to anything that is the real I. But yet, when we don't analyze, when we're not aware, instinctively, the I appears to us as something very real. It exists independently under its own power. And this is quite apparent at times when we are very stressed. The sense of I is very strong when we are stressed, or when we are under duress, when we are very upset, or when we are in a dangerous situation. So that sense of an independent I, the real I existing from its own side, it's clear in those times. So when that happens, that is an opportunity for us to check. So you analyze, you look for the I. Where is it? What exactly is this I? Is it the body? It's not the body. Is it the mind? It is not the mind. So if you search for the imputed object, it cannot be found. But although the real I, you look for it, it cannot be found. But it does not then mean that the I does not exist. Obviously, the I exists, isn't it? Right. Conventionally speaking, the I exists, and it is in our experience that the I exists, the person exists, isn't it? Because uh, we say, I'm sitting down, I'm standing up, I'm going, I'm walking, I'm hungry, I'm not hungry, I'm happy, I'm not happy, isn't it? Right? We 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 talk about ourselves in such a way, and in fact, it is concordant with our experience. The I does exist, isn't it? It experiences pain, happiness, and so forth, isn't it? So if the I exists, there's only two ways it can possibly exist. If it exists, it is it either exists independent of any of all factors, but that cannot be the case, because if you look for the real I, the independent I, as I just mentioned earlier on, the object, the I, when searched, cannot be found. So So, but yet, if it does exist, then the only other possible way for the I to exist is that it exists in dependence on other factors. It exists as something that is dependently vaccinated. Yeah, it exists nearly beautified. It exists in near name. So when we have such an understanding with respect to the I or the person, then likewise we can extend this understanding to all other phenomena. Yeah? And remember, yesterday we had a question about non-duality. And I said that the non-duality in the middle way means to be free from the two extremes, isn't it? To be free from the extreme of permanence, which means the things and events are inherently existent, and that is not the case, is that but but we also need to be free from the extreme of non-existence or the extreme of annihilation, in that nothing exists whatsoever. So we have to abide in the middle way. Things definitely exist, but they do not exist the way they appear to us. They exist in nearly as something that is really treated by thought. It is dependently vaccinated. So, and when we talk about being mindful of the view, it is not something that is to be sustained just in meditation. As we are going about doing stuff in our daily lives, when we are walking, sitting, eating, and so forth, we can bring the view of emptiness into play. So as Milarepa, Milarepa once said that I meditate when I eat, I meditate when I sleep, and so forth, isn't it? So that's the practice of wisdom. But then there's also the practice of bodhicitta, isn't it? So in our daily lives, as we go about doing whatever we do, so when we come into contact with other sentient beings, mind you, we always recite the prayer, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. But somehow, when our idea, our concept of sentient being is a very abstract one. Our idea, somehow deep inside, we think that sentient beings, is like, some abstract entity, very kind of distant from our lives, this somewhere out there, But somehow we never ever think of the people around us as the sentient beings whom we say in the morning that we are going to become a Buddha for. Somehow, So, when we go to work, we have to think of our colleagues. These colleagues are the sentient beings that we say we want to become a Buddha for. And if you are a doctor, then your patients, think of your patients. If you are a teacher, then think of your students and so forth. So basically, we generate bodhicitta for all of them, and even for the insects that we come across in our daily lives. So it is said in the teachings that when we come into contact with sentient beings, we should look at them with the eye, we look at them with the eyes of love. Uh, think about their kindness. So then at the end of the day, when we go to sleep, before we sleep, then we should check, and investigate, what how what have we done in the particular day, have we acted in accordance with the bodhicitta motivation that we have generated in the morning? So if we have acted, if we have lived that very day according to the bodhicitta motivation, then rejoice and then generate the wish, the determination to continue doing so the next day and for the rest of one's life. But somehow, if we discover that there's some duplicity, that we have not really kind of acted in accordance with our bodhicitta motivation, then just think that I've acted in contrary to my bodhicitta motivation because of my affliction. Then confess and generate the attitude of restraint. Yeah.
Yes, to teach us.
Let's have one more question, please.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. So I would like to invite Misha to ask the question.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. Yes. Yes, very nice. I have published question in the chat. Maybe it will be more convenient, and also I will pronounce it. Hi dear Jhado Rinpoche, hi everyone. Question is, could you please explain how we can generate like a renunciation in Tibetan Nyechung in our daily life when we have our jobs, families, and so on? And what does renunciation mean? This the words Nyechung and how we can generate it. I hope question is clear.
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you very much. Rinpoche, ngejung samba sia di kanda chinas. Ani ngejung ketang kanda chinas. Ani ngaso konzo gejo tenso la mitse jejeli yang konzo ni matahwa la lega la jogo gre soso pi pingya mitsan yo re konzo la jewa so na di jewa sogi sogi ngejung samba ketang di samba tanda ji kanda chinas.
고 딱게저 뉴뉴지 강이야 탑시 지기 인스 고 민중세야디 현대라 때제 지 펜도 저 가자 누구 연애야 땐데 누구 그랬어 남유 빼제나 현대라 때네 대마와 자와마와스 야세 창주스 베제베나는 숨고였어 랑들라 때네 대뇽와 자와뇽와 소스 찌고기 니기지기 돈달라 아니 세디치고를 현재 아니 또그 담순 찌고를 삼는 거제 아니 고 거제 대대베이나 아니 님부침부치 라두고 요레스 갑티들이야 사고래 건고래 내가 고래 레디 고 쇼르샤니 개충을샤니 딜레 개쳐지 아니 지 코와 딜레 저베 땐도 대화 생이 딜이야 이 문제 다 뒤통달라야 동이 양양 거면 뒤통달라야 지 코에님이 양양 거면 어다 뒤선배 아니 냠는 줘야 지다 티버침보와 임비차네 아니 지 조장 통되글로 현된도 조장 통되글로 어디서 털이야 매전 양양 제지 삼노 뒤서 털이야 레트버지 제배 있나 페이지 삼노 동반이기 냠는 데다 전주고 쓰는 냠는 예부 등이 수수 딩들이야 지 예대버지 임바이나 페이지 내가 나가치 소텔 내가래 리군 내가래 맨한 내가래 간대지기 뒤체베 있느냐 뒤값들이야 내가 레체 강가 인 현대냐네 야세기 줘봐 세티나리야 무슨 야제 야타면 누구면은 쳐든지 로트야지 땡땡인 거랬어 삼노 창주고 셈 삼바상보 디스메이나 자로라 생 차지 짐바 준제야 야세기 줘봐 로아인 있으면 남름나로 숨고도 왔어
So
it is said that when accomplishing the welfare of others, then there should be as many activities and so forth. When we are talking about the welfare of others, we should have many goals and engage in many activities. But in terms of our own goals, it is said that we should have less objectives, less goals, and less actions. Okay. If if we live our lives just focus on the happiness of this life alone, then we get stuck with our jobs, our careers, our families, and so forth. And in so doing, then we lose the opportunity to make our lives meaningful, isn't it, right? Yes, we need to make a living. We need food to survive. We need a place to live in. Yes, that is true. But in terms of the bigger picture, these things, although we need them, but we should not place too much importance on them. Rather, it is more important to cultivate and generate the wish to achieve a permanent everlasting happiness. to be free from all suffering once and for all. And to do that, then it's worthwhile then to always think about the faults of cyclic existence and to cultivate the wisdom realizing selflessness. And of course, we are approaching this from the perspective of a Mahayana practitioner. Then, of course, we throw in the bodhicitta motivation. It's important to generate and cultivate this aspiration to become a Buddha in order to accomplish the welfare of all sentient beings. So, if we have the bodhicitta motivation and the view of selflessness in our hearts, then it doesn't matter what we do. Whatever we do, doing job, going to work, and so forth, all of it, will become a practice of the deeds of the bodhisattvas. So at least if we can do things with the bodhicitta motivation, those activities will become like a cause for enlightenment. No, sir.
Dishema Kesawamo re, any Jumela re, any Chichen re, Kenando Samalo, Hudabada Cheji, Jurnaso, Malorowanas, Tuji Cheshua, any the Israel Dama friend, Sobe Lejeba Samalogi, and Singur Gage, Diniji, Nimani, Chub Chegopea Tolia, the two Jebatelea, Kenanto Lejeba Samalolia, Tuji Cheshua, and G. Kabdilia chota tane ini ji nyendenya na tunananya cholia ni tuche shui tuche.
So in short, Rinpoche was thank all the interpreters like Yaki, Dishema, Kesawamo, and Christian, and so forth, right? And Rinpoche also extended his appreciation and thanks towards the organizers of this particular teaching, the Dharma Friends of Israel, for taking up the responsibility of organizing and online teaching. I would also like to extend his appreciation and thanks for all participants, all of you from all parts of the world who are tuned in to this teaching.
ולהקשיב לשיעורים האלה. תודה רבה לכולם.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche, for this precious and dear teaching. Thank you very much from all of us here, all friends of Dharma. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just mention that the recording of this teaching of the main channel Tibetan and Hebrew will be immediately in a YouTube channel. This is DFI Israel. In YouTube, you write DFI Israel. The links to the recording in German and Russian will be uploaded to Dharma Friend website in the coming days. And the recording plus translation to English will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in a week. But we will also publish in our website and our Facebook when these recordings come up. So you can check in a YouTube at the YouTube page. So I will also say thank you for the interpreters, for Geshe Kelsang Walmo, for Venerable Karma Tsundro, Venerable Tenzin Gyome, and Chenchen Mongoose. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the participants. Thank you for all the other volunteers, of course. I remind you that if you like, you can practice generosity and donate in the event page on the Dharma Friends website. And I will thank you again, Rinpoche, for this teaching. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Tukje che.
And now I believe that we will say a couple of dedication verses. Tandangato cute ngwageriins.
Kazana shina shana.
Nasi. So we're going to say the prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then we're going to look at a couple of other dedication verses. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chinrezik Tenzin Gyatso, please remember until samsara ends. And the next one, please. Okay, Rinpoche says that maybe this is enough, so let's leave it here for now. Thank you very much. That's all, Rinpoche. Oh yeah, Rinpoche.
You.